Hello, knowledge seekers. Welcome to Exploring Knowledge Institute YouTube channel. Today we are going to discuss about how to reinforce and punish effectively. Especially we are focusing on the student today, right? When we are providing reinforcements and punishment to the student, it should be very effective. And when we are providing reinforcement and punishments to the students, we should be very careful because if reinforcers are providing excessively, then they will addict for it. Therefore, no need to continue reinforcement that child is achieved or changed their undesirable behavior, because we are giving some punishment or providing some reinforcements to change their undesirable behaviors. No, the purpose of giving reinforcement and punishment is to change their behavior. So, if they had changed their undesirable behavior, then we can stop punishing them or reinforcing them. We don't need to continue reinforcement if they change their undesirable behaviors. If not, they will addict and they will not change their behavior by considering about the development of particular behavior. They will only think or try to gain rewards, right? Not only that, when providing reinforcements, we should be very careful and we should consider about the consent of the student or children. Especially, we should think about what they like or what they dislike. Through appreciation can reinforce a student or children very effectively. Through that, create bond between student and the teacher also. When we are considering about the school premises, through this kind of appreciations, we can create strong bond between teacher and the student. If not, it will be very difficult to change their behavior. Most probably, we should try to reinforce student than the punishment. If it is must to punish to change particular behavior, in that scenario we can use punishment. Not only that, by punishing they will not change their behavior, then using punishment furthermore, it will be a useless practice. For example, teacher is always giving punishment to the student, that will not effective because sometimes that will become generalized. Student will generalize that for all teachers. Another example, right? If the teacher is giving stars daily, then student interest to get star will reduce because they will generalize that one. Therefore, when we are giving or when we are providing reinforcement to the student, we should be very careful and we can appreciate them, but always we should consider about not to continue that reinforcement furthermore. If not, it will become a useless practice. When we consider about the punishment will be effective if it is using only for the short time period, which means if we continuously practice punishment, then that will be useless. It should be stopped at the reaching the undesirable behavior of the student. When giving punishment, that should be given at that moment. If not, what will happen? For example, think like this: teacher is giving punishment for some kind of undesirable behavior of the student after a long time ago. Then student don't have idea what is the misbehavior of him or her. Then they will get confused why that teacher gave some punishment to me. Therefore, when we are giving punishment to the student, then that should be given at that moment. Punishment may increase emotional responses, which means if parent who is beaten to their children or child due to poor reading capacity, that will experience dislike or rejection toward teachers who are trying to improve their reading skills. Finally, child will reject or dislike reading. Therefore, always we should highly consider about their mentality of the children when providing punishments. Punishments may affect to suppress their talents, abilities, and emotional factors and creativity that can be suppressed permanently. Therefore, when we are giving some punishment to the student or child, we should be very careful. We should be think about their emotional factors also. For example, if some student has talent to write poem and parents or teacher or peers were criticize that child's talent in negative way, then sometimes that student will suppress his or her talent permanently. They will never write poem again. Therefore, when we are providing punishment, we should be very careful. Sometimes this punishment can create conflicts within people that can be an innate struggle. For example, some person is failed from O-level or A-level examination several times, let's say, and he or she couldn't enter to the university. Then people tend to label that student as foolish and useless individual. Through this, there will be struggle with their innate. Another example, let's say a boy wants to create a relationship with a girl in a university, say, let's say if he was rejected in many times from the girls, then that kind of person's known as timid and unpleasant characters. That kind of things can create conflict within the people that can be an innate struggle in their mind. That's why we are telling that when we are providing punishment, we should be very, very, very careful because that can be damage to the personality of that particular person. However, through punishments should be damage to the physical and mental damages, that means to the self-esteem of the person. This kind of mental damages can be increase. The harsh punishments may lead to occur anxiety or phobia, and that many kind of mental issues can be created through harsh punishments. When giving punishment, should give awareness about offenses or the reason to getting that punishment. It is most important. That will be effective to change targeted behavior. If not, they don't know what is the reason to get that punishment. Therefore, when we are giving a punishment, we should give awareness about the offense and the reason to getting the punishment. If not, the target of the punishment will not achieve. If they felt their behavior is gradually changing, then they should reduce punishments and they can give reinforcements gradually. Some punishment is not matching with all, right? When that's why we are telling always we are giving some punishment or reinforcement, we should be very careful according to the behavior that should be changed. And when providing punishment, we should be very careful, and that should be creative, and it should not harm to the self esteem of them, right? It is most important. Sometimes these punishments were conduct excessively, then sometimes a student will drop out from the school and commit to suicide as well. Therefore, it can do major harm to their life, no? Therefore, when we are giving some punishment, we should be very careful according to the student or the person. We should provide some punishment or reinforcements. When we are applying punishments, we should avoid these things to control behavior successfully. That punishment should not damage the reputation or identity or the personality of the individual, right? Therefore, when we are reinforcing or giving some punishment to the student, we should be very careful. We can provide reinforcements positively, and we can give some reinforcements negatively also. That means we are not punishing them, right? In reinforcement, we are adding stimulus to increase recurrent to targeted behavior by rewarding pleasant stimulus. For example, if your son is getting high marks in the examination, then parents can provide gifts to strengthen the learning behavior, right? When you are providing gifts, that gifts should be the pleasant one for that student. According to the consent of the student, you can provide the gifts. Then they will strengthen their learning behavior. When we are providing negative reinforcement, it is removing unpleasant stimulus to increase targeted behavior by removing unpleasant stimulus. For example, if a student is actively participating with the lesson, then teacher can reduce homeworks. Teacher is removing the unpleasant stimulus to increase their targeted behavior, because that student is actively participating with the lesson, then teacher can reduce homeworks because students don't like to do the homeworks at the home. Another example, wearing seat belt. If we didn't wear seat belt, what will happen? There will be a bell, no? And some noise is there. We don't like to that kind of noises. To reduce that unpleasant sound, always we tend to wear seat belts. That kind of things we should think before we are giving punishments or reinforcements to the student. Let's meet with new knowledge, and bye bye knowledge seekers.